Mark and John, the Dad Podcast crew, sharing laughs, advice, and stories just for you. Mark and John, the dads you'll adore. Tune in for fun, there's always more. Parenting tips and some dad jokes too. Join the ride with Mark and John, it's all brand new. Mark and John, the dads you'll adore. Laughter and wisdom, come explore. So grab your headphones, don't miss the show. Mark and John, where good vibes flow.
Hello, kia ora, good day, and welcome back to the podcast, Dads. I'm Mark.
Hi, I'm John.
And this is John.
John.
Anyway, I was out shopping the other day, and I was like, oh, I need a new phone. I went into the Apple store. And you know what it's like, man, you've too much fizzy juice and that, and I farted, John. You know, I let one go, man. And I said to the guy, look, mate, can you smell that? And he's like, aye. And he's like, what you got to do? He said, nothing, we don't have one of these here.
Oh, the Apple nut,
Aye, Windows, no. I shouldn't have said Windows, I should have said Windows.
Was it Windows 98 yet?
Jeez, that was a terrible one, wasn't it? Open the window up and let that one out.
There's no Windows, it's Apple.
That was a joke, man, because there was no windows
on
in
that.
that.
You've got to describe what the joke is.
Oh,
Crack on.
right, on you go.
Today's sponsor, you want to talk about the sponsor?
You can talk about it, you know.
Okay, today's sponsor is Renovations. For all your renovating needs and
Design and build specialists. So we're a design and build specialist. We can design your dream and make it a reality.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Alright.
Now, today's episode, following on from the last one, we were talking about myself, is a wee bit about Mark and his story, which I know he's bursting to
see it, chariots afire.
I hope you get the still game references, everybody. No, Mark's keen to tell his story and a wee bit about himself and where it all began for him.
On you go then.
It's a pretty generic question, but what was life like for you when you were younger? What was your childhood? What was your memories?
Well, that wasn't my earliest memory. I started off life as what I can remember in Eldersley, just a little town outside Glasgow. And for the most part, it wasn't brilliant, you know. Like we lived in a little apartment. And one of they call them electric flats. It's like a little tiny miniature high flat. You get them in Glasgow. It was like a miniature high flat style building. For some reason they called them electric flats because I think they didn't have gas. So that's why they called them that. But anyway, so we lived in one of them, and it was just me, my brother, and my mum, and like I don't really have many memories of my dad growing up, you know, like actually the only memories I've got are the good ones. So like I've got a memory of like my mum and dad fighting in the car. My dad was living in Darnley, and my earliest memory of my dad was my dad basically fighting with my mum in the car while we were driving. You know, my mum's driving and my dad's, you know, having
set to.
Which, you know, like me and my brother we were screaming at the time, and we, you know, like we, again, because it was back before like seatbelts were a major thing and that, and we were kind of just hanging about the back seat, and you know, so that was my kind of earliest memory of that, and you know, so it's a little bit traumatic when you're a child, you know, that's one of your memories, and yeah, so we lived in Eldersley for a couple of years, and Then we moved to Paisley. I must have been about 9, maybe 8, 7. I remember it was primary. I'd just gone into primary 5. So, and that was like a total change, a complete change of people as well. Like people in Elderslie are different from the people in Paisley, and just like the people of Paisley are slightly different from the people in Glasgow. And
They're pretty close, but they're pretty different.
aye, and you know, there's differences, but you know, the again the financial struggles never left. The financial struggles were always there, and growing up with no money is not easy. It's not easy. At the time, you don't realise it because you just think that that's life, don't you? You just think that's life, and like at art leave, like I remember getting a birthday present, and it was a second-hand bike from the neighbour up the stairs, and the bike didn't work. You know, like the chain kept falling off it, and it kept breaking, and you know, and you're like you know, he got a nice new bike, and I get the hand-me-down bike, and you know, nothing worked on it, and you're like, oh, this is, you know, everybody was out playing, and I can't join in because the bike I've got doesn't work, and you know, so you feel kind of like, you know, again, you feel they kind of run to the litter a little bit because everyone else is enjoying playing, you're kind of stuck trying to make things work and stuff like that. So, so that was tough. And then, you know, as you spoke about earlier, you know, my mum loved a drink, and I mean, it's no secret. My mum was an alcoholic, and she's since sadly passed on because of her the way she became, and you know, alcohol was her life, you know, from morning to night, and you know, that was her first priority, was make sure I've got a drink in the house, you know what I mean? And at the time you don't understand it, but that created its own monster, you know, and so I'll never forget, you know, like, so we'll talk about stuff that's changed my life, and some of the stuff was getting beat up as a kid, you know, so it's obviously difficult to talk about, but like like me and my brother be in bed, you know, like we used to go into bed after Heartbeat. Remember Heartbeat, TV programme, a Sunday night? So I would all remember that. You go into bed after Heartbeat for school, and I think it was pretty early. It may have been like 6 o'clock or something like that. It was pretty early. And so me and my brother, we were still full of beans, you know, as kids are, you know, you're still full of beans. And so then you go to bed, and then me and my brother, we were wanting to either carry on or just talk and stuff like that. So we'd be talking, and then my mum you'd hear her shouting, "You don't shut up," you know, like, and, you know, and then you could hear that angry tone, and if I have to come through there. And then she'd do well, I don't know if this is normal, but she'd do that, I'll count from 5, you know, and she'd do the countdown, and you knew it was coming, you know, like, so she'd do that, 5, 4, and sometimes you were deadly silent, but you don't know what she was listening to, you know, it could have been the neighbour upstairs or the kids outside playing still, and then she'd go 3, 2, 1, and then you'd just hear the footsteps, and then that was you. You were like, oh, I know it's coming, you know, and she'd come in, and she'd make sure you wouldn't do it again, you know, like she'd come in and she'd give you a right good scalp, but if it wasn't her hands on it was whatever she could lay her hands on, you know, John, it was her slippers, or it was her shoes, or it was her belt, or, you know, and you had to be shrieking in pain, you know what I mean, like, she had to know that you were sore, you know, like, you know, like, when I look back at that, I'm like, I look at my daughter, and even now my daughter's like 19, and she's still delicate in my eyes, and I look back, and I was like, I'm a baby then. And
how old did you have been about that time, what?
Well, I'd have been about 6 or 7, because this was still, at this point, sorry, I was still in Elderslie, you know. And these are the memories I had in Elderslie, and you can still picture it. That's the thing. I can still vividly remember this stuff. I can still picture this, and I can still hear my mum counting down. You know what I mean? And it's the countdown to a beating. You know what I mean? And sometimes I was going to use the word warranted, but nothing's ever warranted. You're never ever warranted getting beat up as a kid. And that's again part of why the podcasts come about as well. Is that there is other methods that you can use. You don't have to use violence, and that's what my mum used violence, and part of that was the alcoholism. It was the alcohol abuse that she obviously had demons herself, and I know it's a shame to say that she's dead now, but I wish I could understand her. I wish I could now fully understand what was going on in her head. And again, it's maybe the learned behaviour. It's maybe the stuff that she was learned and what she saw and stuff like that. And but I just when I come back to that, I look at my own life and I look at my daughter and I go, no way I could hit my daughter. When my daughter was being a kid, and you know what kids are like, and there's no way I could lift my hands to my kid. I'm looking at her, I used to. She was like, like a wee ball of fluff. You know what I mean? I was just too scared in case you damaged her, and I just think, well, how could that have happened to me? How come my mum never saw that when I was a kid? And again, these are the questions that you leave open to yourself. You know what I mean?
Sometimes you struggle into it when you can't answer them.
So again, that's all part of the podcast as well. Is hopefully maybe somebody, or hopefully Stephanie might be able to answer that question for us and see where that goes. But I don't know. Again, I just look back and I don't understand it. And I struggle with that, and I struggle with the fact that that did happen, and then obviously that's not the only struggle that we had, but obviously having been a single parent and having two kids is a massive undertaking for anyone. And for all the single parents, mums and dads, for all the single parents out there, what a job you guys are doing, man. It's a full-time job, and this world need to understand that, don't they? They need to understand how much a difficult job it is. We're creating the future generations, and so.
Oh, definitely, that's all. Oh, perfect, thanks, Mark. Well, pretty hard to hear, to be honest. And I totally agree. I just having kids yourself, and I know that kids can be difficult because, but at the end of the day, as kids, they're learning. Do you know what I mean? And they do push boundaries and stuff like that. And it's sad to think that she thought that was the only way she could manage. I mean, is by installing fear and we talked about having questions about, but I'm guessing it was something you never spoke about then.
Something I've learned as well is lots of people use intimidation tactics in normal life, and people think that's right, but it's wrong. You know what I mean? Everybody uses that intimidation to, you see it on the roads, people drive aggressively. It's an intimidation tactic, and and you don't need, people don't need to be aggressive. You know what I mean? There's no need for it anymore. You know what I mean? Again, we've got one life, and it's a short life as it is. So
living yourself in that pent up anger all the time, and trying to install fear into people and intimidating, there isn't a need for it, or it's just, but again, it's all back to learner behaviour, isn't it? It's what they've maybe watched and they've been brought up and learned with. But no, thanks, Mark. What about outside the home, what about school life and that, how was that?
School, I actually enjoyed school. I enjoyed going to school because it was it got me away from being at home, but school had its own challenges as well, one thing I was grateful for was the free school meals. Did you get them? Did you get a dinner ticket and stuff like that at school?
We did.
Did you get one? So, but my mum had good points as well. My mum wanted to work, and she tried her best to go and do work. So when there was a dinner ticket, there was a threshold you had to meet. And my mum was over that threshold, so she had to choose to either work or not work. And, you know, and so there was that. So we didn't meet the threshold to get a dinner ticket, which meant that as little money as we had coming into the house, we had to try and, like my mum had to try and get us lunches and stuff. And like I'd go to school and I'd have like I'll never forget it, closer to the end of the week you get the same bread that was blue moulded and stuff with, you know, like shaved ham and stuff, or whatever the cheap meat was that you would get from the shops. And you know, and you had to pick the little bits of blue moulded at the bread and stuff. So that, I mean, that was a pleasant experience. And again, like that's something I remember, because I don't like eating a cold lunch. I like eating a proper lunch now, you know what I mean? As you can tell with the sizes. You know what I mean? So
No, I can remember actually that as well, like when you saying that a bit as well, but maybe it's that generation, but I'll pick the blue bits out. You're like, but it's embarrassing as well, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, again, talking about judged, even kids judge. You know,
kids judge, that's
and
it,
kids
and
can be
they
the
see
most, kids can be the worst critics and the worst nasty individuals as well, unfortunately. I mean,
and that's it. So like I had my mate in school, Kevin McMahon, you know, he's actually the dad of my nephew. And when his brother Wisbet wasn't in school, he'd like, Mark, look, Wisbet's not on the day, I'll get you his dinner ticket. And, you know, you can get a lunch, you know, because, like, you know, lots of people in my area had lived in the same situation, so they knew what you were dealing with. So I'd be grateful when Wisbet didn't come to school, because I'm like, I'm going to get a meal today, this is great. You know, and I'd go up and I'd be trying to carry on, I'm Wisbet and that, and Kevin would go first and I'd go behind him and I'm Wisbet, and I'd get his dinner ticket, because you were getting, you know, it was like, you know, I was grateful for that to get a lunch, you know, and yeah, so these are the kind of things you had to do to try and to survive. That's it. And everybody else they're getting money, so they'd be like, you know, £5-10 a day to feed themselves, and I've got nothing, you know. So
it's nice. It's definitely not nice, and it's, as a kid as well, you're just always, you're always worried like about what other people are thinking. So, but at the same time, you're trying to look out for yourself as well. But no, it's hard. It sounds very difficult. But yeah, how did you go into school? Did you manage to feel like you were learning and stuff like that, and you didn't feel like you poverty struggled with that?
Poverty did have an effect on you, because, you know, like I always remember we had, like, you had home economics, didn't you? Is it home E? We used to call it home E and that. So we done one where you had to make like a food, so, but you had to bring in a breast of chicken, you know, and like, you know, I went home and said to my man, I need to bring in a breast of chicken for, and it will obviously cause tension, and again, you know, she would shout at me, and I'm just like, well, this is what I've been told I need to bring in for. So anyway, what I eventually did was I couldn't bring anything in, because we never had the money and stuff, and I've went to class and I've had to make up an excuse, like, oh, I've dropped it, or you know, you've got to come up with something for a reason why you've not got it, you know what I mean? And I ended up getting punished for it. I get punished, you know, I ended up with detention and stuff, because I'd forgot to bring in, I never forgot, I just didn't bring it in.
Do you remember what the teacher said?
The teacher questioned the financial thing. She's like, oh, I mean, it's only a breast of chicken. It's only like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, at the time I was even thinking then, like, who are you to question my financial situation? You know what I mean? Like, but, you know, like, because you try and, once everyone's away from class, you try and tell them the situation, and I just felt like there was that lack of care, you know, and they didn't care, so you're like, well, you know, I found that was a bit tough, so.
A little bit of sense of reality there, you know what I mean? Like, judging again.
That's right, you're judged, even then, even by an adult. you know. So, and the thing is people don't want to believe that situation actually exists because they're not living in it. If you're not living in that situation, you don't believe that it's true. Then you know you're like, it can't be that bad, but no, it is actually it is that bad, and that's again why I'm wanting to put a lot of effort into building a podcast so that we can help, because I know that this is true, this is real life, this actually was real life, this happened, and I now know that it does happen, and you see it with lots of people. The more obviously I talk to other people, then the more you see that it wasn't just you that was fighting that battle, you know. So
No, definitely, and again, it all came to talk because you spoke out as well, and but again, that, well, as you get older, that gets a bit easier as well. I mean, try to encourage people even at a younger age to speak out as well. But no, no, it was great, Mark. Thanks. So so that was in secondary school. That was it then.
aye, that was in secondary school. Aye, so but yeah, like you touched on it earlier about the provi checks, you know.
Oh gosh.
And my mum used to get the provi checks, and I remember her doing something else. There was something else that was need provi checks, but
Is it the vouchers? Was it the Happy Shopper vouchers type?
no, I can't remember what it was, but it was something like that. But and she used to go and run and collect the money for people, and people just wouldn't answer the door. You knew they were in, but they're not answering the door and stuff. And my mum used to go and try and collect the money for that, and that was one of her jobs. You know, and you had to go at night with her and stuff like that. And she used to call it cleaning the stairs. So she had a wee cleaning job, cleaning like the inside of one of the apartments. One of the posh apartments, because this apartment had carpet in it, you know, like, and we lived in the old manky closes.
Sometimes you get a neighbour going out maybe doing it now and again, didn't you? But no, I was the same. So what about then after that then? What was life after leaving school, and how old were you when you left school?
Yeah, I was 14 when I left school. I was still too young to actually leave school, but we'll go back a little bit more. At a young age, I had a paper round, so I used to deliver papers. Did you have any wee jobs? That
A couple,
everybody? So I did my paper round because it was the only income I had. Like, you know, you always see other people having money and stuff, and I was like, well, you know, I'll do my papers. But I did my papers right up to I think I was about 18, because again I needed the money, and we'll touch on that a bit later on. But I did a paper round for quite a number of years, you know, and I just having nothing wasn't good enough, you know. Like, I needed some sort of income, I needed some sort of money, and what I eventually did was, when I was 16, my mum, she left. She met a new man, and like, I always remember the conversation she's having. She's like, "Oh, you'll go and meet a woman and leave me anyway," and so I'm going to do what's right for me, you know. And she moved up to Inverness with her new man, and kind of left me with a house, you know, and I had to pay the rent and pay the gas, and you know, and look after the house at like a really young age, and that was difficult, because I mean, that's still a major part of your childhood, you know. Like, I was at, you know, delivering papers and stuff, and I was at college at this point, so I was if we go back a little bit, I was about 14 when I left school, and I had to go to college, so I was still too young to leave school, so I left in 4th year. And because of the age I was at the time, I was told, oh, you're not allowed to leave school, but we don't want you here. Pretty much the school said they didn't want me there, and they said, we can put you on this course, the Reed Care, and I went and did a construction course. So I did a construction course where I did all the trades, and I learned all the trades, and that was great. You know, I loved every minute of it. But again, at the time, my mum's like, well, you know, you're old enough to go to college, you're old enough to live yourself, you're an adult now. Well,
My
I'm
dog-
just, no, I'm just saying, oh, well, if that's what you think, then, you know, like, and that was kind of, you're thrown in the deep end, and I don't even know if any of my family knew what was happening, you know, because my mum kind of ostracised a lot. She, like, my mum was a difficult person to deal with, like, and again, this is part of the podcast is trying to understand different personality types and stuff, but she was really difficult to deal with, you know, and she was aggressive and stuff like that, and so I don't even know if anyone knew what was going on. So, but anyway, that's what was going on in my life, and I obviously had to look after the house and pay the rent. So I had a paper round, and I was getting a bursary, and every little cent I was getting was going back into looking after the house. You know what I mean? And making sure that I'm like, because you have to think about these. So I had to start thinking about all these stuff. Like, if I've got to take the TV on, then I don't have the money to pay to have the TV on, you know, and I'm sitting there like, and then you're like, oh, I can't put the heating on, you know, maybe I'll put the heating on for maybe an hour before bed so I can get warm before I go to my bed and stuff like that, and that, you know, or maybe I'd have it on in the morning, then you know, you got all these things that you consider, like, you know, and so, like, there's all these challenges that you've got to face as a teenager.
Stuff you
know,
really shouldn't have been, should you? This might be your carefree years, innit? Like,
aye,
you're
and
relaxing and just playing with your pals, and here you at 14 looking after
aye, looking
house
after the
and
house, aye, so, like, so I don't really tell anybody. I was maybe a little bit embarrassed about it, and I think, well, saying that, nobody would ever ask you anyway. Nobody ever said anything or asked you, or I just had to deal with it as best as I could, and as you say, that like I never had a dad, so I found it difficult to get into sport in the first place, and well, I couldn't really afford that commitment. But like I eventually got into a team when I was about 15, but that's not long. And then my mum disappeared off the scene, and I was kind of left to deal with that myself and deal with a house and trying to get to the training, and so you can't really focus on something you enjoy. You find that I found that difficult, you know, because you can't really enjoy it because I was more like when people would pack up and they'd pack up after training and they'd be like, oh, you know, like, I'm going to go home to a warm meal. I was thinking I'm going to have to, because I used to cycle. I used to use my bike everywhere, and I lived in Paisley at the time, and as you know, my gran lived in Barhead, and I'd have to cycle back because I couldn't afford the bus. So I was like, well, I still want to get to training, so I need to cycle that journey. So I used to cycle back from training at night, you know, and just to cycle there. So I used to, that was my way about, you know what I mean? So
winter months as well, man, would have been pretty dangerous then as well. Dark and kids on the road and that.
aye, dark. So you had to go past, had to cycle past Dyke Bar Hospital, which is a mental institution as well, you know what I mean? And so I was used to drive that Dyke Bar Road, cycle the Dyke Bar Road, and it was pitch black, you know, like some of the time it was pitch black, and especially in the winter, you know, like,
Pretty scary.
and you're like at the time, but for me it was just something I had to do, you know, it's just, you know, like, and that, again, when I needed something to eat, I'd have to go to my gran's, and I got up to my gran's, and I just kid on us popping in after training or something, and she's like, oh, you want something to eat? And you're like, oh, thanks, gran. You know what I mean? And you know, and my gran used to always say, she said, oh, you're going to lick the pattern off that plate, you know what I mean? You're like, I was just about ready to eat the plate as well.
No, you'd have been hungry. No, that kind of reminds me of the same. It's pretty similar, licking the plates and stuff like that. Still do it to the day, to be honest. No. So how old would you have been then with the football now? And that's sort of been 15?
I was about 15, aye. And then I kind of left when I was at 16. Maybe I got to 16, but I can't remember. But and then that's obviously when life took a massive change for me, you know. And it's then you've got to look after the house than anything else. That was the most important thing, you know. I had to make sure I was making money than doing something you enjoyed to do, you know what I mean? So, so I found that was difficult, and so
Was that still just the paper on that then?
I was doing that, and I was getting a bursary, so you had to go to college to get a bursary. So, but then after that the course ended, and I was eligible to leave school and stuff, I did another little block course in college, and then I realised that I couldn't really do that. I needed a job, and I got a skill seeker. So I got a skill seekers. You ever remember that? So I got offered £50 a week to go and work in Fad's paint shop in Paisley, and then I got offered another job in W. Smith in Braehead, and they were like, "We'll give you £100 a week," but it was full time hours. It was like 9 to 5, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll take the job in W. Smith," and I mean, that was tough. Like, I went there and people were working part-time and getting more than I was getting paid to work full-time, and
Was that just down to your age then, I'm guessing?
that was down to the age, because I don't think I was old enough to actually work full-time, and that's why I did the skill seekers thing. And so anyway, I worked in, and I'm not I'm not being offensive to W. Smith or anything. I'd probably one of the greatest managers ever, and a guy called Jonathan. He was fantastic, and Sylvia was good as well. I really enjoyed her management. So she again, these are the people that I look up to. But I hated it, John. I hated it, man. It was like prison. It's what I've never been to prison, but it's what I can imagine going to prison would be like. I went in there, and you go in, especially in winter, you go in at night. You go in the morning, it was dark. And you'd go leave after work and it was dark, and because you were inside the shopping centre, it was you never seen daylight, and I hated every minute of it. I just worked in the till, and that was just me, just beep beep beep. Have you got a club card? Beep beep beep, and like. Again, because I obviously nobody talks, nobody spoke, nobody asks your situation and stuff, and I was just trying to deal with my life at the time, and I'll never forget it. We had W. Smith were doing a 2 for 20 offer on hardback books, and this guy came up to the till and he had the most expensive books in the store, and it's only books that have got the sticker on it, and it was on certain like non-fiction or fiction or whatever, but this guy was picking from the other sections, and so he came up to the till and he's like, "I'll have these 2 books," and I was like, "Oh, that's like £200, and he's like, "Oh, it's 2 for 20," and I was like, no, this is only this section. And I'll never forget, the guy picked up a book and threw it at me, and I reacted, and I chased the guy through Breed. I chased the guy through the man. I remember getting screamed at to come back, and I'm like, I wanted to murder this guy. I'm like, I've lost it, man. I've red ragged a bull, because my life's already hard, and I've not done anything wrong. You know what I mean? And who did this guy think he was to throw a book at me? And so I had to come back and calm down a little bit and consider my actions. But again, like, you're like, it's difficult. You have to try and remain professional in a situation like that. But again, somebody shouldn't be acting like that either.
Definitely, 100%.
And these are all things that stick into your head, And
So maybe something is obviously 100% correct. That older person doing that again, it's the intimidation again that you're talking about. But it isn't getting what you want. It's literally throwing his toys or books at the pram, isn't it? But again, like with you kind of kicking off that again, it's maybe, had you had that chance to regulate your emotions? Had you been taught how to deal with these? Do you know what I mean? But there's no denying the person throwing the book at you.
No.
It doesn't matter how much your emotions are regulated.
There's a saying on that, I got the book thrown at me that day.
I was looking up, getting a book thrown at you, and you're the internet man, doing your job. No, but I guess it's a blessing in disguise a wee bit having that job as well, because it kind of taught you again that you didn't want to live that life. You didn't want to have that job, and you wanted something different,
No, so like I knew I wanted to be a trade. I wanted to. I wanted to follow my life. I wanted to do something and I was still applying for jobs. I was still applying for apprenticeships, and I managed to get an apprenticeship at a local company, you know, Laidlaw Scott, and I'll never forget the interview with the guy, you know, like Gordon, his name was. He was actually the chairman of St Mirren as well.
Oh, a team.
So I went up and had the interview with him, and I had like this little folder, and then pictures of me doing like that construction course, and one of the pictures fell out in the way at the door, and he went, "Oh, you've dropped your picture," and I said, "No, I was going to keep that for you so you can put it up on your wall," you know what I mean? So anyway, I got a phone call back,
Goodbye.
and he was like, "Look, we're going to offer you apprenticeship," you know, and I was so over the moon. Like, I was like, you know, like, fully appreciated the opportunity that was given, and I couldn't wait, you know. I was desperate to hand in my notice at W.H. Smith and that, and you know, it was the first time I was at my work early, you know, right at the boss's door. "Hey, by the way, there we go."
It's a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel, innit? It's like progression, and you're a wee bit of glimmer of hope in it, like, you're doing something like you want to do rather than just making ends meet, you know what I mean? So, no, 100%.
But so anyway, as we were going through all that stuff, actually, you know, I met my wife in Braehead, you know, and that's how we met. And I'd actually bought a car. I remember buying a car. My first car was a Vauxhall Nova, a 2-door saloon, and I bought it for £200, you know, and I saved up to get it, you know, and that, like, again, I was sick of using my bike and stuff and getting buses and walking everywhere, and I was like, I'm going to, you know, drive, and then, you know, I got my learners, you know, my provisional license, and then, you know, at that point, everybody else, because they were older than me, they were all sitting their driving lessons and passing their tests and getting cars and that, and I'm like, oh, I'm not old enough yet to get to that stage. So anyway, my mate Chris, he found this little car up in Newton Mearns. He's like, "Oh, come buy it, come buy it." So I was like, "Oh, you know, £200 was massive amounts of money for me, man." I'm like shaking hand in it, "Oh, £200, you know." Anyway, so we got it, and I bought it, and I started taking my driving lessons, and I'll never forget it. One day I was up in Barhead, and I passed my driving instructor, and I waved to him, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then, you know, the next time I did a driving lesson, he's like, "Did I see you up in Barhead driving it?" And I was like, "No."
No.
He's like, "I called it up, you waved to me," and I was like, no, it wasn't me, it must have been something else. So, so
It's good to have the motor on the road then as well.
it was great. I remember passing my test, you know. I passed, I think it took me about 15 lessons and I passed.
Wow, that's amazing.
And
40 ones.
aye, so but I was getting lots of free experience, you know what I mean? And it was the bad thing against that is you don't want to learn bad habits, and that's it. My instructor was good enough to say, "Look, if you're like, I can't tell you not to do it, but just don't learn any bad habits because you could fail your test because of it." And I'll never forget it. The first day I passed, I got my car road legal, and I was paying, even back then, I was paying like $3,000 a year for car insurance, and I was just like, I needed to. I was like, I need to get a car on the road, and you know, this was all the story of life, was I need to get this, and so anyway, I did it and got the car all legal, and it was the first day I got stopped by the police. I was doing deliveries. I was doing, you know, the Chinese deliveries. And the guy's like that stopped me. He's like, "Oh, you know," and I was desperate to show the guy my license, and he's looking at it, and he's looking at the date, and he's like, "I've seen you driving this before," and I was like, "But you never stopped me before."
Well, before you had your license? Oh.
Oh, jeez, oh. But anyway.
So the deliveries and that, was that to cover the cost of your work, the car?
I had to do it. I was still live myself, you know, like, and you know, at this point, you know, my wife to be at that point, she had moved in, and we were inseparable when we first met, you know, like she came and she moved in, and like you know, like I've got to thank her dad and her mum, you know, like they helped us out massively, and she'd phone up her dad and she's like, can you bring us through a pizza? And he'd drive all the way through and bring us through our pizza and stuff like that, and you know, like you're like, you know, oh, man, this is amazing that parents can be like that, you know, and even, like, you know, what eventually did was my mum eventually come back, and Sandra was in the house herself, you know, and my mum didn't even know who Sandra was, you know, and she was like, oh, who's that? Who's this person sitting on my couch, you know, and when I've come back in, I've seen my mum's car, I'm like, oh, man.
Oh, so you weren't in at this point and she'd come
No,
up?
man, no. I was like, oh, no, here we go, man. And then I go to read the riot act for my mum, you know, who does she think she is in my house? This is my house, we're sitting with our feet up on my couch and all that. And I'm like, where have you been for the last 2 years, you know what I mean? Like,
So that was 2 years.
you know, like, where have you been for all this time? And I've been, I'm the one that's paying for this, you know what I mean? It wasn't you. And because things started going south in Inverness, because, you know, my mum's husband Dan was a serial alcoholic, proper alcohol. He was next level. He was like, I'd find there was whiskey bottles, no, vodka bottles, sorry, like in the tumble dryer, and you know, like you think of the cliche stories you hear, but there was there was planks everywhere, you know, even in my room, you know what I mean, and me and him didn't see eye to eye, so we'd fight all the time, and I'm like at this point I was kind of old enough to actually go, we're moving out, and we ended up moving in with my wife's mum and dad, and you know, we lived there, and and Gordon's a Dundee United fan, you know, so poor guy, man.
Oh, at least they're back in the SPL. No, but what I want to ask you there was, like, even your mother coming back and having that, like, attitude to still have that all the tappy as well, but whereas you've been looking after the house, you've been paying the bills, and did you know, how was your reaction to that? Did you manage to talk up to her, or was there still that kind of fear there?
No, you're still, like, you still had that element of fear. Now, like, the stories, like, you know, I've got a real good friend, Jacqueline, and she's more like our sister days, you know, like she was a real good friend, and she knew what was happening and stuff like that, and she knew what was going on, and I don't know if to the full extent, but you know, like, and my mum's she was a real jealous type, you know, and I'll never forget it. Jacqueline's tough, you know, she's a brave girl, you know, and my mum stopped the car one day and got out, and she was screaming in Jacqueline's face with a key in her face and screaming at her, and Jacqueline stood up to her, and I was like, I know what's coming, you know, I know what's coming when I go home tonight, you know what I mean, I'm going to get a doing, you know what I mean, and like, you know, like, I was petrified to even say anything, you know what I mean, and to stop my mum from abusing my mate, you know what I mean, in the middle of the street and stuff, and I'm like, you know, and I didn't want that to damage my friendship with Jacqueline, but I knew what I was going to get when I got home and stuff like that, and you're like,
What age would you have been then? You know?
That's how I can't remember what age I was, you know, like I'll never forget that. Then I mean, Jacqueline will testify to what happened.
Was she a bit older though?
No, Jacqueline she's maybe just a year younger than me. No, she's not. She's oh no, tell her age on telly, but
Women's age. Apologies, Jacqueline.
but you know, so she'll testify that it happened, you know, and
But obviously, she knew what was going on, and she had that care for you, and to stand up to her and respect her. And that's a shame, as you said, but you knew it was coming because.
but so and it wasn't like when I moved out and moved in with, you know, my missus's mum and dad, and life started getting better for us, you know, like I was working, and that Gordon was kind enough to not let us pay lots of rent, you know, like we're not paying him some dig money every week, which wasn't a lot of money, you know, and it helped us get through life a little bit easier and stuff, and you know, and that was good, and I was driving and stuff, and oh man, I've got heaps of stories I could tell, but
Oh, good play at a time to tell these stories.
yeah.
At a time, no, but that's good. It sounds that you got a lot of thanks as well. A lot of praise and
Definitely. They were. I mean, they're totally. You know, they come through to New Zealand and stuff like that, and you know, it's always good to see them. You know what I mean? And Sanders Ma's a pure pest, by the way, man.
Where did that? And what about the times that you'd moved and stuff like that? Was there any kind of contact with your mother? Was there any kind of manipulation else you tried to kind of interfere on it? Sorry.
You know, there was a little bit of there was a little bit, because I remember a situation where I was listening to a tape. Remember tapes?
Oh, please.
Jeez, oh man, I was listening to a tape in the car on the way to work one day, and you know, I got this phone call from my mum, and I'd actually pocket dialed Dan, you know, my mum's boyfriend, you know, or partner, or whatever you want to call him. And she'd pocket dialed him, and I had pocket dialed him in the car, and I was listening to music, and they made up this massive story, you know, because he was jealous to the next level, man, like totally jealous to the next level. And I think that was it. That's when I broke, you know, and I went home. I wasn't home that time, you know, I went to my mum's house, and I had the tape, man. And I went in, I just excuse my language, you need to bleep that out there, but I launched the tape, and it hit him square in and I jumped over the table, and there was a few digs, you know, digs there, and my mum, she was trying to drag me off him, and I was getting smacked in the head with my mum's shoes and that, and I just went, I don't need this life anymore. Like,
nah, you did enough, Mark.
that was it, and I just went, that's it, me and you're done, and you know, like, you live your life, I'll live my life, and
it just makes it hard, as you say. It doesn't need to be like that. Do you know what I mean? And
no, that's it. That's it. But that, again, if it wasn't for me seeing what life could be like, you know, like I just thought that was normal. I'd have just been like, oh, this is what life is like. This is what you do. This is how you interact, and this is what you've got to do for life and that. So,
so next it would have been obviously staying with Sandra, and how old would you have been then?
About 17, I think, when I met Sandra, you know. So, so still pretty young, and and we just went from strength to strength, you know, and just.
The only way was up, wasn't it, to be fair?
Well, definitely for me, anyway. Definitely was only up for me, so. We'll come back to that shortly, so I'll just got to pause it just now, guys, because the battery's at 1%, so we'll come back.
So Mark, you were saying you were staying with Sandra's mum and dad, that, so what was that like? Was it quite easy? Like, felt like you were part of a family and stuff like that?
It was good. Living with Sandra's mum and dad showed us what life could and should be like, you know. It was a proper family, and you know, and Sandra's mum's she's a great cook, you know. She'd look after you and feed you and stuff like that, and Gordon was great, man. I used to just beat him at FIFA all the time, you know what I mean, at night time, and you know, I had to let him win on the occasion, you know what I mean, like, but.
I wonder what Gordon will be saying about that.
No.
So you were staying there, and you were obviously quite happy, and you felt a bit of family life, what it was like. But did you have kind of aspirations to maybe go and get your own place and stuff like that? Your own place, you and Sandra?
So Sandra fell pregnant, and we had Samantha, and you know, both of us were working, and there was that age-old question, like, I'll talk about, so my papa would say stuff like, oh, people like us don't buy houses, right? And like, I never knew what that meant. Like, what do you mean people like us don't buy houses? So anyway, I could see what the potentials were and stuff like that. And everybody used to say, oh, you know, you got to invest in bricks and mortar. Well, that wasn't actually true for our life in Scotland, you know. So we bought a house, and we bought a little one-bedroom flat, and it was probably the worst investment we've ever made, you know. Like, it went backwards in the whole time we were there. And even now, I don't think it's at the same value it was when we bought it, you know. That's how bad it was. And because it was only a one-bedroom flat, it was only a temporary thing for us. We just needed somewhere to call our own and get onto the property ladder and stuff. And so anyway, we know we got this little flat, and then there was a GFC, the global financial crisis, which was the first major recession that I've ever seen, you know, and it was the first one I had lived through, and then, you know, I eventually lost my work, and, you know, I had no job, and we had to deal with that situation, which is, well, that's one of the most stressful things that I've ever had to endure, you know, like, you know, because, you know, at the time, like, we were getting finance companies just posting you a check. There's a check, go and buy what you like, and you're just like, oh, this is like winning a lottery, you know, like. So, you know, like, there'd be an envelope sitting in the door, and you'd open it up, and there's, you know, 20 grand. There's just cash this check in. You can get this amount, and just cash it in if you want to go ahead. And I was like, oh, this is great, you know. And so we did that, and you end up spiraling into debt, not realising that the situation that you're creating for yourself. Because if you've never lived in a sort of recession, you've no idea what it's like. And I didn't realise I was digging a hole. I was just digging and digging and digging, and ended up digging this massive hole for ourselves. And that was tough, you know, because we ended up living in minus and on credit cards, and it was terrible. So
Again, it's probably just never have had that financial training and understanding how credit cards and like even money works, and buying things as well. Like, you just like, you've not had money and you've got this free money.
Aye, that was it. It was like free money, aye. And like, you know, people talk about signing on a dole and stuff like that. The dole didn't want to help us. You know, I'd worked all my life, and I was paying in more in tax and national insurance than most people were getting in wages when I was working. And as well, you know, as you're doing, like, I used to do deliveries at night, and, you know, work overtime and weekends and stuff, and you're paying even more in tax. So I was paying lots of money in tax, but when it came time to get something back, I never get anything back. And that's how now you see it in the UK, the frustration with people. They're like, well, they're giving immigrants everything, and you were getting nothing. And that's why even at the time I was frustrated, because I'm going there asking for help, and they were like, tough, pretty much. That's tough. That was you're just kind of put on a scrap heap, and I was still a young guy at the time, and
You weren't getting any offered any support.
no, and that was it. You know, that was really tough. So
It's demoralising as well, because you're going there looking, because it takes a lot for people to ask for help. I mean, and obviously you had a family end to look out for. So what happened then with work-wise then? What happened there then? What did you go next with that?
So after I lost my job, after I lost my job, you'd find the odd little job here and there, and you get someone phoning you up and they go, oh, I've got 2 weeks work for you and all that, and like, if you were signing on, you had to sign off. So you'd be like, all right, I'll take it, you know, any job, you're just desperate to get a job and stuff like that, and then you go and you turn up, and the gaffer would be like, mate, I've got 6 hours work for you. And you're like, what do you mean? And the person said, you've got weeks of work in front of you, and you're like, no, we'll be finished before the end of the day and stuff. And you're like, I just sign off for this, you know what I mean? Like, and they didn't care, they just wanting bodies on jobs and try to get jobs done.
To get you in the door, basically, wasn't it? It was false pretense.
That was it. And the agencies didn't care. They didn't really care about you. And so, and then, so that was tough, and, you know, and you know, I did. Obviously, at that point, I knew that, like, I set myself a goal. I always wanted to move down under. I always wanted to move down under from a young age, and I'd always set myself a goal. So, we talk about setting goals, right? So I set myself a goal that I wanted to be in down under. I'll be honest with you, I wanted to be in Australia because I didn't really know where New Zealand was at the time. But I wanted to be in Australia before I was 30. That was my target. And if you don't set goals, John, you don't know how to achieve that. You know, like, so I set a goal, and I can walk back from there and say, right, well, what do I need to do to achieve that goal?
What's the steps?
That was it. So I always knew that I wanted to do that. And again, that was the reason why I saw my apprenticeship out. You know, I got my 4 years in, I got my papers, and people were like, oh, just get off the tools, not get off the tools, but just come and work and make it a tradesman because you're good enough. And
Good with it.
and they're like, you know, you get more money, and I was like, no, I need the bit of paper. It's the bit of paper I want, you know, that was more valuable to me, and that's my message that I want to get out is stick in, get that little bit of paper, because you don't know, it's the path you take in it. It's everybody's got a choice. And some people take this choice, but I took that choice. I chose to stick it out, get less money, get my qualification, and it got me to New Zealand, and like, you know, so
It was
it's
short-term
massively
pain.
important.
Short-term pain for long-term gain. I mean,
Aye, that's it.
Sometimes in life there isn't shortcuts.
So I can look back on it now, and I'm so glad I did it. You know, I look at where I am, and you know, and
It all stems back again, but for having the goals and knowing the steps you had to take to get you.
but that's again what we're doing the podcast for as well, isn't it? Like to show that if you do structure stuff and if you do make the right choices, it does pay off, John. It definitely does pay off if you do it. You know, you got to work hard at it, but aye, so.
So we'll talk about New Zealand. How did it come about then? What was the steps?
So the steps to New Zealand, Santa and I actually booked to go to Perth with family in Australia. And it's difficult to try and get a hold of them and stuff, and this is back before the internet and stuff like that and stuff. So we try to get hold of people and stuff like that, and long lost relatives and that, and like I'll say it openly, if any one of my family want to come over, then you know, like,
Doors
open. Aye, like I want to offer that same, like, because I wanted help to come here, and I'm hoping that if they need help, then I'll be here to give you that help and support and stuff like that, and you know, that it's such a better life over here. So anyway, we were going to Australia, and I did the whole expo thing, and it was rubbish. Honestly, it was an absolute waste of time.
Was it bad?
And I remember being so demoralised after it, you know, like, and I ended up bumping into a guy at Charing Cross after it, and the guy was...
It's a chance meeting?
And he was like, oh, we're having our own little expo in it wasn't Charing Cross, it was just up from the motorway. The M8, just over the Kingston Bridge, there was a wee place just up there, like a town hall kind of place. Can't remember the name of it, but he's like, we have a thing, come here at this time, and so I went there, and there was me and another couple, and he was like, we had sold it. Like, he said, I don't know why there's nobody here, and I'm thinking, this is a wind up, man. This is like going to be in Jeremy Beadle or something, you know what I mean? so I'm like waiting for something stupid to happen, you know. And so the guy was literally like, it was like the whole hall was full of chairs, and this guy, like, as you do, you come in, you sit halfway down and stuff, and he sat over there, and then the guy just like, you come over here, we'll sit over here, and he turned around a chair and sat, and we had like this kind of intimate conversation, and he's like, look, you know, there was an earthquake in New Zealand, and told us the story, and he said, I can get you New Zealand in 6 weeks. And I was like, okay, right. And prior to that, I had been offered a job in New Zealand with an agency, and it got rejected, like get cancelled. The job got cancelled, and I remember thinking, I've told people I'm moving to New Zealand, and they're not going to believe me, and like, what am I going to, like, I was a bit embarrassed about it, but then this guy was like, I've got a job for you, I can get you there. And we were there in like 6 weeks. We were, like, he's like, you know, we had our flights to Australia already booked, so we were going to go to Perth anyway. And I'd spoke to a few employers and said, look, can I come and, you know, like, show you what I can do and whatever, or, you know, is there a way that I can come and prove that I'm a painter, or can you, you know, like, and they were like, I come and speak to us. And so we had our flights already booked, but the company was like, go and enjoy Australia and then come to Christchurch. And I was like, oh no, I just want to get there. Like, I want to get there. So we changed our flights to Christchurch and cancelled all our bookings and booked in Christchurch and stuff like that. And anyway, at that point, I had found a job with the council, and it's the most secure job I've ever had. And I was the driving force behind moving, John. I was the absolute driving force. Like, you know, I've got my family in the case, and I'm dragging them, and then come the time we're in the airport, I was like that mate, you know, like, my legs were properly trembling. I could hardly stand up with the fear, and I was like, I can't go on the plane, man. Like, I'm not going, we're going home, and like, the sheer panic, it was like bedlam in the airport.
Cold sweats.
And Sandra's lap behind us, walking onto the plane, you know what I mean, at Glasgow Airport, like, you're getting on with it, like, you know, and, you know, and so anyway, that was, at that point, it was real to me, and I remember...
It's a crunch point, isn't it?
I remember arriving in Christchurch, because I was talking to the company the whole way there, and for me, like, just the background from my history and that, like, people used to say, make promises and it never ever happen, and, you know, you can rely on anybody, I can rely on my family or anything like that, and so you're always really cautious about stuff, and I've always had that cautious approach, and we get to Bangkok, and so we get to Bangkok, and I'm trying to contact them, and they're like, oh, we'll be at Christchurch Airport when you arrive there. So I'm like, all right, cool. Get to Christchurch Airport, nobody there. And I'm like that, no, kid you not, we get off the plane, and I'm like to Sandra, I'm walking up to the Emirates desk. Sandra's like, where you going? I'm like, I'm going to go and get a ticket, we're going home now. Like, and Sandra's like, oh no, we've got everything booked, the accommodation's booked and that. And I'm like, no, that's it, man, I'm going home. Like, there's nobody here, this is kid on. And she's like, no, let's, and I'm thinking it's a scam, you know, and I'm not panicking. And Sandra was, you know, she was a calming influence, and she's like, no, we'll be all right. And anyway, she's like, look, the accommodation's all booked and stuff, and I'm like, right, that's all right, cool.
Let's get a go.
So anyway, we get a taxi, and I get a taxi there, and we get in the accommodation. It's beautiful, you know, like stunning, like lovely big place in the middle of nowhere, and it's what a setting it was for us, you know, and so we go there and we're like, oh, this is fantastic, this is beautiful, you know, and so you kind of relax a little bit, and then the next day the company's like, oh, sorry, the dates, you know, the dates were wrong because
time
differences and stuff. So they apologised and I met them, and then they took us around Christchurch and showed us the devastation of the earthquake and stuff, and you're like, wow, like, I can't believe we're here, and no, you know, I remember the first day I started work, John, man, all the stress was unreal. I ended up be, that was the most, I reckon it was the most unreal stress I've ever had. Like I had like a line like this, and that one half of my head was in agony. Like it was like the worst headache I'd ever had. And it was like toothache, and I couldn't speak and stuff like that. And I ended up working with two guys from Glasgow, didn't I? Like, come on, that's fine. I ended up speaking with two idiots from Glasgow. And anyway, and stupid me as well, right? I'm thinking we're in Australia, and Australia's this like roasting hot country, and you know, we're in New Zealand, and it's like -1, and I've got this wee singlet shirt on, like freezing, like, oh, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Forgetting that because it's the opposite time of the year and it's winter and stuff like that. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, why is it cold and stuff? So anyway, I end up getting sent up the road because I'm like, I couldn't do it. And but the next day I had some painkillers and stuff, and then I'm back to work, and I was fine after that. You know, like,
Is this stress?
it was just a stress. It was a stress that it was a stressor that we were in the other end of the world, so I was panicking because I thought of my situation in Glasgow, and I'm like, I struggled for work in Glasgow. What's it going to be like here? You know, like, and I'm the only breadwinner, and my wife had a solid, steady job, like a job for life for the council, and I'm like, geez, I'm the only breadwinner. If it fails here, it's only us, and it's like after you've done that journey, John, you're like 32 hours in a flight to here, you know, and you're like, it's not a taxi ride back.
No.
You know, and I'm like, it was the normality of what we just did, John. And people have asked me since, but when people said, would you do it again? But when we first arrived, we arrived with nothing, John. Like, we had very little money and just the clothes on our back and stuff. And I just think how stupid I was, because I'd arrived at the other side of the world with, like, we were lucky we had like maybe $4,000, $5,000. And I'm like, that's not a lot of money to achieve anything, you know what I mean? And to get set up. And but anyway, you know, we worked, San and I worked hard, and San eventually got a job, and she done a fantastic job of getting us a rental and building us a home and stuff like that. And I just went to work, and then I just again worked as many hours as I could, you know, nights and weekends, because at the time there was tons of work. You know, Christchurch was just, there was too much work, and they just wanted to throw work at you, and I was just like, no problem, I'll just keep working. And
you talk about the other bit, like feeling stupid and stuff like that, but where you come from as well, it was hard. I mean, and it kind of just shows how much you did want it as well, how much you did want to change, that you were willing to go and try this place that you wanted to go to and try. And so it's maybe not stupid, but naive as well, and maybe just,
naive, that's it. I know knowing the full facts and that. Should be buying any cheap chairs, you know.
No, that's fine. But no, hats off to you, because you talk about being at the airport and that step on the plane and that fear, and one, because you just got that job and you were like, oh, I get steady income here, I come a day in. So, and then you've also got the fear of the unknown. I mean, it's every part of the job, you don't know what you're stepping into. I mean, you've got this dream in your head, but really you don't know.
Right, that's it. I mean, New Zealand's at the end of the world, isn't it? It's pretty much at the end of the world, you know, for...
No, you couldn't get any further, to be fair.
No, that's it,
that's one of the things I get said when I've said I was going to New Zealand. You couldn't get any further away.
Can you get it?
What was it you're trying to tell us?
No, so.
No, but I'm guessing, obviously, with the little money and stuff like that, but you talk about you were working and stuff like that, and it could have been long before you were helping start to see a plan in action, and you start to see you going the right direction.
Aye, so like, I've always had good leadership, you know, and I'm always in control, you know, and I think that stems from the being thrown into the deep end of life, you know, so I always feel like I have to be in control, and I always want to be in control of what I do and how things go, and again, I set goals. I set goals so I can achieve my goals. And we made a goal was, like Sandra wanted a certain type of house, and well, like, right, we'll do that. So we achieved that, and then it was, like I wanted to progress and work, and I actually was on a job, and I was running the job, and the project manager came, and he was like, you shouldn't be running this job, like, and I'm like, mate, it's just what I do. And he's like, you're doing a fantastic job by running this job, and they ended up poaching me, so like my wife was working for them at the time, and she's like, oh well, let's arrange a meeting with them, and so I ended up with a job, and I spoke to them, and gave them my CV, and they were like, well, from what we've seen and what we've heard and what we can see, we want to take you on, and you can be a project manager. And I ended up a project manager, and as one of the lead project managers through the whole of the earthquake repairs, and and like, I live a year later, and I'm running my own business and that. So
sounds like you've thrived since you came here. Then it's been.
It's just progress. It's not always success, John, but it's with risk comes reward, and it has to be a controlled risk. You got to understand that if you take a risk, there's also could stem the opposite. You could end up with something going wrong, and I was prepared to take the risk. And I took the, a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want to be a manager, it's so difficult, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, no, like I want to achieve more, I want to be able to learn more and do more, and, and like, I wanted to become a leader, and I did that, and yeah, then, the earthquakes kind of started slowing down, and I moved up to Auckland, and I worked for a new build company, and built lots of new build houses, and I did development work for them, and that was great. I loved that, and
again, it's all learning, isn't it?
it was all learning. That's it. So
and that's what I said earlier about the opportunities in New Zealand. If you're willing to show that you're keen and want to put the
you've got to
time
put the
in.
work in. So in New Zealand they call it the mahi. You're prepared to put the mahi in, and I was more than prepared. Like, people didn't get it. I'm a project manager, and I was like, if there was something needing done, like I'm jumping in the trenches with the guys, and I'm like, I'll help you, and they're like, what you doing? You're the project manager, and I'm like, I'm like, at the end of the day,
Run this together.
this project's success depends on us as a team, and we need to work together. And I'm not going to watch you struggling while I'm standing here doing nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I'll come in and help you if you're struggling, and I can help you. I will. And people appreciate that, and I still do that today, even in my own business. People are like, are you the owner of the business, or you know what I mean? And I'm like, aye, but at the end of the day, I've still got goals to achieve. I need to achieve this goal, and and like, especially since COVID, like, people phone in sick and stuff, and the job still needs done. Like, I still want to be able to get my customers back into their home, and and so I've got dates targets I need to meet, and if I can do it, I can do it. I'll do it, and I'll not stop at anything to get it done, So
That's a great attitude, Mark, and it's something I admire from you. It's something I can see when you're doing something, you take a lot of pride. I've learned a lot in the short time that we've known each other. No, hats off. So how did Auckland pan out then? How did that go then?
Yeah, Auckland was good. It was tough, like, I don't really say this with it not sounding offensive, but the people in Auckland are not as nice as the people from Christchurch. And I met a lot of good friends in Christchurch, like a lot of real good friends in Christchurch. And we got to Auckland, and the Aucklanders get called Jaffas. Have you heard that term? No.
Yes.
Just another an Aucklander. And I just thought it was a joke, but when you get there, it's true. You know, like they are just they're so full of themselves, they're so ignorant, and you know,
Ones
if
you've
that,
came across anyway as well.
just the ones I've come across. As a big city, but like you know, I only started playing golf when I was in Christchurch, and like I love golf. I always wanted to play golf in Scotland, but you couldn't really get there because the way it's set up. And but I mean, New Zealand's open for anyone to play golf, and
Oh, definitely. Can agree with that.
and you know, like it was on you to me, and my boss would be like, "Oh, I'm on it, we'll play golf," and I'm like, "I'm going golfing with the bosses," like you know what I mean, and it was great. And Alan's probably one of the best managers I've ever had. Not sure if he'll watch this, so if he does, no, Alan, you're one of the best boss I've ever had. But no, he was. When I was in Christchurch, I was full of raw emotion and stuff, and like still the rawness of Glasgow. And
Bursting at you.
Alan, I learned a lot from Alan because like people from Glasgow, we just kind of say it how it is, and I would say it how it is, and that's not really the Kiwi way, you know. You got to kind of tiptoe around stuff. And Alan, I remember Alan brought me into a meeting, and he gave me into trouble and stuff like that. And you know, he looks a bit like Brendan Rodgers. He's like, no, like a poor man's Brendan Rodgers. He's got a big nose, you know what I mean? But anyway, it's like 4 eye. So anyway, he's get a bit of trouble, and he's like, ah. And then we go into the meeting, and he was the opposite. He was so defensive of us and all that. And I was like, man, go on, you want to slaughter us? And no, you're, and he backed me, and I was like, that's the sign of a true manager. Someone, he knows I've not done it right, but he knows the real reasons why I've done it. And he was prepared to go on and defend us and stuff. And I was like, all right, I really appreciated that, you know what I mean? And I try and use that going forward for my own self, you know. And when I've run projects as well, I'm like, you know, like that's how you need to treat people, you know. And so anyway, Alan, so the reason I spoke about that was when I was in Auckland, nobody'd play golf with us. Like, I'd say to them, oh, do you play golf? And they're like, oh, yeah, we play golf. And I'm like, oh, can I come? And they're like, no.
Blatant, just...
Blatantly, just straight flat, no. And I'm like, all right. And you're trying to find a path in, and they were like, no. And they weren't interested in what you were doing at the weekend, or and they knew you were new, but they're not interested. They were just, so we don't really care about you, you know, like we'll do our thing and you do your thing. And like I was like, I love golf, and I was, you know, I was phoning Alan, I was telling him, and he said, like, my mates live in Hamilton. He said, you know, I'm going there this weekend if you want to come down and play golf down there. And then I went down and played with them, and I'm sad to say they're actually a decent bunch of guys, you know.
Oh, you still play with the fellas then, aye?
I still to this day, you know, so 8 years later, I'm still playing with them. So, but that's, again, that spurred the move to Hamilton, you know, like the people here are so much more friendlier, and and it's not as busy. Like, I hated Auckland for the fact that it was busy, and to go anywhere in Auckland was like, I came up with this thing of, it takes you longer to get from Auckland to Auckland than it does from Auckland to Hamilton. You know what I mean?
Nice.
And like, you know, I was working up there, and I'm like, I'd spend more than an hour in traffic just to get to another part of Auckland. When if I was in South Auckland, it'd take me less than an hour to get from South Auckland to Hamilton. And I'm like, it's nuts, you know. And so I like that part of it. And plus the property prices up there were just, it was just like made up numbers. And you're like, somebody must have just went like that with a calculator and went, oh, that amount of numbers. And that's how much you're paying for this house. And I was like, oof. And Hamilton's just not that expensive. And so we moved to Hamilton, got a rental down here, I got a job down here, and eventually we bought this house, you know. Excuse me, it was a long day of filming there. But buying a house for us was a huge step, John. Like, because of what I'd eventually did before, buying a house was a massive thing, because I was so anxious about, is it going to go wrong again, you know? And but anyway, we bought a house, and we've not looked back. Like, this is literally the best thing we've ever did, is buying a house and, setting up a business. And again, these were all goals during COVID. I set up a 5-year plan to meet these targets, and I met them all within a year.
What was the target?
So one of them was I wanted to own my own business. The next one was I wanted to own a house. And then it was just dumb stuff, like I wanted to obviously have a nice car. I wanted like a nice new car, and I went and bought that. And then just a couple of personal goals that we'll not talk about, but I wanted to achieve them and stuff, and we achieved just all of that stuff during COVID. And
how long did that take you?
that took us a year, just less than a year. So I thought 5 years. It was a 5-year plan. I remember looking back at the notes and going, we did all that in a year. Like, literally a year. It was like, because it was I wrote it during COVID, because we were in lockdown. And I was like, these are the things I like to achieve, and, and we did it. I just went into overdrive, because, I was working for some people that weren't very nice, and it was actually the driving force for me to make a change in my life, and I was like, these people are horrible people, properly horrible people. And again, a Jaffa. And, and I was like, I need to make a change, and I did it, so.
So you touched on you own your own business, so how did that come about then?
Well, Refresh approached me, obviously through marketing and stuff like that, and I'd always worked in the construction industry. I've worked in the construction industry my whole life, and I wanted to either get into property or something like that, and either developing, and I got an email from the CEO, Lal, and I just sent him a message saying, I'm interested, and then you obviously got to go through the due diligence and stuff like that, and I went through all the due diligence, and I was like, this is what I want to do, like, this is what I want to do. I understand that it's a franchise and stuff, and I learned the pros and the cons, and then I was like, yep, this is us, and we did it. We bought the franchise, and I've never looked back. The construction industry's got its own challenges, but we'll talk about later on. But it's been the best thing I've ever done. It's obviously got a lot of stress and stuff like that running your own business, but at the end of the day, I've learnt a lot from that as well, because I've looked back in past situations and I've went, I can understand why that's happened now. And you appreciate it more, because as it's you that's making the money, it's it's you that's going out and you're doing it. And I thought, well, you understand, it opens your eyes to things. And it's like I spoke about earlier with the coaching as well. When you coach, when you're a player, you never understand. You're just like, that drill was crap, that drill was rubbish, but you don't realise the hours that was went into planning before that, and you're trying to work in the timing and stuff like that. So it's like, it's not until you actually do a thing, you actually realise to the full extent. And I've learnt all the lessons now, and
But, well, and how long has that been now, the business? Has that been
4 years.
4 years?
4 years.
Like, as I said, yourself would have been ups and downs as well with construction as well.
Well, I started it during COVID, so it was still through COVID, and I thought, well, and it's been a tough 4 years, John. It's been a very tough 4 years, because again, something we'll touch on further on is that the people's mindsets, and it comes back to again the whole idea of the podcast as well, that everybody's changed with COVID. Like there is a saying called cabin fever, and I never actually knew what it was. I didn't realise it was a real thing, and it is. It's a real thing. We were actually all locked up. We were all locked up, and it's totally changed everyone. And it was like people lost that personal touch and that personal interaction and stuff, and that's how I still like to have phone call conversations and face-to-face interactions. And I'm a really personable person. I like to meet people in person rather than on the phone or over email and stuff. I'd rather, even with all my dealings in business, I need to go and speak to them in person. It's just the way I am. I want to, like, if you're dealing with my business, like, even if it's from financial or, the banking or anything like that, or suppliers and stuff, I want to meet you in person. I want you to know who I am. And again, hopefully this will help as well, because this is my story. This is me. This is who you're dealing with, and and I genuinely do care. I genuinely do care, and I want you to understand how hard I work to be able to achieve what I want to achieve, and so.
Yeah, it's just another kind of person just doing the job. You're actually, do you feel like when a job's going on, you want the standard that you'd want for yourself? I mean, if somebody was doing the work in your place,
Aye, that's it. And again, like part of the COVID thing, and you can't blame people, but people just, they give up dead easy now. Like, and during COVID it was difficult because everybody was getting sick. Like, it didn't matter what it was, like, whether it was a delivery company or, materials, and like everything had a knock-on effect from it. Like you'd get like, you'd phone up and you'd be like, oh, is this ready? And they'd be like, oh no, it's at the warehouse, the guys, every one of the staff was sick because they all work in close quarters, and you've got whole factories down, and so that was another challenge, and you're having to deal with that. And I remember, I've got a mate, Nick, and I was doing a reno in his house, and we were replacing his windows at the time, and there was a lockdown happen, and it was like that night, the news was like, oh, no one's allowed out, and we were like, well, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Because we've got his windows out, and they're only tacked in, and so I'm then trying to figure out if I can go there and make it properly secure, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to go back there, and now that you've told us that where it is and stuff, we're going to make sure that we watch there so you don't do it and that. And you're like, but this guy's living in a house. It's not, the windows are, not all of the windows, but a couple of the windows are in with a couple of nails holding it in, and it's not probably fit off properly. And you're like, we need to go and make that secure, And it was all these, like, again, the government didn't really care. And even stuff like, you could get something, it had to be couriered. So like, you were finding daft loopholes, like, if I had to get carpet on a job, the carpet company couldn't bring the van through, but a courier company could. So what was the difference? So we were like, we were like today, so we would tell courier companies, like, I'll get my van driver to drive the van to here, and they'll meet you here, and then can we put that carpet in the back of your van, and then you take it through the border, and then I'll meet my other supplier, will meet you there and pick the carpet up, and that was fine. But you're like, how come it's not fine the other way around? You know what I mean? It's still the same thing. You know what I mean?
You think about it, it's like pretty ridiculous, isn't it? Some of the
Aye.
rules in place.
Aye, and you were
crazy.
like, I remember going down to Dunedin in Napier, and you were in, like, you're standing in this big long queue to get into the airport terminal, and like with everyone, there's only one door operational. But there was loads of doors in the airport, but only one was operational because of COVID. So everybody was
Close contact.
And then you got into the terminal, and you had to sit separate. But then the person that you couldn't sit beside in the terminal, big massive building, sat beside you on a plane. And you're like how dumb is that? Like I just couldn't figure that out. It's like, and these are the same kind of people that are telling you, oh, you need a vaccine as well. You know what I mean? They've made that stupid rule up. So.
That was ridiculous.
So anyway, that's a whole different story, but.
Oh, definitely. No, that's perfect, Mark. Seems to kind of brought us up to the kind of the present day.
No, so.
It's been an amazing story.
Is it? Thanks very much.
I've enjoyed listening to it, Mark, and I'm sure the audience will too. Is there anything else you'd like to speak about, or kind of guidance you want to give just now you've got the chance?
Well, I've got a chance. Are you going to sack me after this?
We'll see how the viewings go.
Oh, this is my interview. So anyway, been great. Anyway, if you enjoyed that, like, follow, share, subscribe. If it relates to you in any way, make a comment. If there's anything else you want to hear, understand, ask us in the comments. And it's been a long day for us, John. We've spent all day and night videoing and setting up cameras, and so hopefully we've got better as it's went on. There was a little hiccup earlier where there was no audio there, wasn't there? So all you got was John and I miming.
I still couldn't.
Anyway, but anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.
You'll be glad you watched John and Mark bubbling lads, uncomfortable around on the podcast dads. Just watching smart lads, dedicated dads, real guys, frank guys, your life on storytelling guys, real living guys in conversation every other day. Just watch them right up your alley, so bring a little ray of light into your day. I ain't ashamed to say I like them. John and Mark capture everyday challenges in a relaxed manner every other day, searching life stories, blood talking hellish feelings daily, exploring ugly living snakes of the world. It's a devious old world, the game of life worth exploring. Sweat dripping talk, awkward talk, life stories articulate in a sophisticated way, yet naive in an ordinary way. Really glad you watch John and Mark bubbling lads, uncomfortable around them, the podcast dads. Just watch some smart lads, dedicated dads, real guys, right guys, real life and storytelling guys, real living guys in conversation every other day. Just watch them right up your alley, so bring a little ray of light into your day. I ain't ashamed to say I like them. John and Mark capture everyday challenges in a relaxed manner every other day, searching life stories, blood talking hellish feelings daily, exploring ugly living snakes of the world. It's a devious old world, the game of life worth exploring. Sweat dripping talk, awkward talk, life stories articulate in a sophisticated way, yet naive in an ordinary way. John and Mark capture everyday challenges in a relaxed manner every other day, searching life stories, blood talking hellish feelings daily, exploring ugly living snakes of the world. It's a devious old world, the game of life worth exploring. Sweat dripping talk, awkward talk, life stories articulate in a sophisticated way, yet naive